This is a DJ Abomination remix.
Welcome back to the Team Nerd Herd podcast, where our best advice is if you want to do it right, collect what you like. Now, Team Nerd Herd, we are super excited to bring you yet another creative comic book spotlight interview, a segment we like to call, What If We Don't Shut the F Up? Today, you'll find out. Now, we are super excited to bring you our intro that y'all been waiting for. Ross Richie, founder, CEO of Boom Studios. Now, he has won 9 Diamond comic distributors. Count them, 9 times, guys. New series of Berserker created by Keanu Reeves and over 625,000 copies, becoming the biggest launch in comic book shops in nearly 30 years, y'all. 30 years. He is executive producing the Disney Plus TV Just Beyond, currently in production in Atlanta, based on the best-selling Boom graphic novel series from Goosebumps creator R.L. Stine. Boom just launched a new Magic the Gathering series based on the billion-dollar franchise card game, which will be on sale in comic book shops in April. Mark your calendars, y'all, because I know I am. Entitled Magic. It's the biggest selling Magic the Gathering comic book series in nearly 25 years, y'all. Let's bring him in. Let's give him a warm welcome. Ross Richie, welcome to the show, Ross. Thank you so much for having.
Thanks for having me, y'all. How are you?
Doing
Good,
great.
good. Thanks for coming.
It's a lot of fun. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for even coming in, Ross. We're super excited. We are big fans of Boom Studios. I know I have all these titles on my pull and have been collecting since the time of getting back into comic book collecting. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
I think we're all big fans, man. We're all big fans of Boom, and Boom is just like Boom has the best stories right now, the best books. You know, like you guys are hitting it out of the park with everything that you guys come out with. So,
thank you. Well, we have a brilliant editorial team that works really, 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 really hard, and an incredible marketing team. And great designers, great production team, but I'm here because I have a brilliant staff who's super talented.
Awesome.
Yeah, you guys remind me a lot of Dark Horse in the 90s, like the heyday of Dark Horse, in the sense of just you're not the top 2, but you're right there with them. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
You're putting out material that everyone wants to read.
Well, Dark Horse is an excellent company. So
yeah.
I have a very high opinion of Dark Horse. So thank you for the compliment. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah. So Ross, let me ask you. We always like to start off with origins. You know, where did you pick up your first comic book, and what comic book was that?
Well, my mom got an Easter basket when I was 6 for me, and she went and bought a Captain America and a Fantastic Four comic, and she cut the top of the Easter basket open and slipped them in. Sealed the top, and that blew me away. And for me, it was being 6 and seeing the Fantastic Four and thinking one guy is made of rocks and the other guy is made of fire. I want to be made of rocks and I want to be made of fire. And I have the distinct memory of being in the back seat of the car and seeing the numbers in the number box and thinking, because I think it was 178, and I remember thinking, if there's 177 stories before this, I need to get them all. I need to read them all.
It's very cool.
So did you end up getting them all?
There you go.
You know?
That's the question.
Yeah, that was my question, Alonso. You took it away from me.
Nice play, Alonso. If I did have them all, I would never tell you when I go on vacation, and you'd never know where I lived. I can likeness like Alonso. I can recognize Eyes on you.
You gotta watch out for him, Ross. I gotta tell you.
If you need a profile picture, Ross, I can email it to you. Just don't worry about it, man.
All right. But I ended up reading them all. I got them in a reprint or a collection of some kind all the way through, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah. Got some. I grew up in Texas. Got some Mexican reprints.
Oh, Texas!
Oh
man.
my gosh.
That's cool.
And I don't have them anymore because for years and years and years, foreign language editions were disliked, and now they're all the rage. And I wish I had my Mexican editions.
Yeah, all those foreign editions that they have nowadays, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you excited for the Fantastic Four movie eventually?
Oh, that is something that will truly give me an immeasurable amount of joy.
Nice.
There's a quality that I think there's something really magical about Kevin Feige and how he creates this material. And I've produced movies. I've made 2 movies, and so I work at Hollywood. And the thing that is so hard to explain to people that don't work in Hollywood is, in the conventional studio system, people are constantly, even today, they're scared when they make superhero material that it'll be goofy because people have suits on, costumes, and there's a lot of wacky out there ideas. And I think what Feige does so brilliantly is he understands how to make it fun. And it's really emotional and it's really true. And the characters are really powerful. But it's a lot of fun. And the Fantastic Four is that. The characters are really powerful. It's a family relationship. But the thing that that first 100 issues with Stan and Jack has is it has a sense of adventure and fun. I mean, The Incredibles is not quiet about the fact that they tapped into the Fantastic Four for inspiration. Now, it's not the only thing. They obviously tapped into James Bond for inspiration as well. But that kind of bouncy fun with a real sense of adventure, I think they're going to really crush that. And I think it's going to be, I'll probably cry.
So on another front, eventually we know several of your titles are going to end up becoming TV shows and movies and that type of thing. Do you look forward to knowing that you're going to do that? What you just explained, which is awesome. I've never heard from Fantastic Four fan that kind of detail and that love for it. You've got people that love a lot of your titles, like There's Something Killing the Children.
Oh my God.
And because it's just an amazing book. And you've got Berserker. I've seen people pick up Berserker. People know me as comic book nerd at work. And they come up to me and go, "Did you read this?" And it's like,
that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Duh.
How does it feel knowing that you're going to have eventually 10 years down the road when these become major properties? They're big properties, but you're on the small level right now. You're going to blow up eventually. Bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
How does it feel to know that someone's as reverent as you spoke about Fantastic Four, they're going to be speaking that way about your stuff?
Well, what I try to do as much as I can in my job is to try to create an environment for talented creators to come in and tell their stories, to support them, but at the same time to provide resources to them that help shape the story and help shape the marketing and supports them all the way through. And I really feel like it's my job to try to pick the best next franchise. That's always been interesting to me. I'm going to jump ahead and unsure out of the chronology of what the series of questions you've got. But I went into the comic book business. Let me back up and say, I read every single Marvel and DC comic I could get my hands on from the age of 6 until 13. And when I was 13, I discovered independent comics. And that blew my mind because that was for me, it was going on a tightrope without a net. It was this is the next Batman, this is the next X-Men, which one of these things is not bound by continuity and it's not limited by the fact that, I at a certain point when I was like 10, I figured that the Joker was always going to come back, right? So the Joker's going to break out and Batman's going to catch him, and then the Joker's going to break out and Batman's going to catch him. We're just going to do that, right? And then we'll do it with the Riddler and we'll do it with Penguin. And I love Batman. I have a million Batman comics, so I'm not knocking Batman. But with a series from back in the day like the Elementals or John Sable Freelance,
I love that book.
You didn't have any idea what was going to happen. And I can't even tell you how exciting it was from that era, because it was happening in front of you. It was like this vista was opening up of these brand new publishers, and they had top talent, the most exciting creators, and they were telling these rip-roaring franchise stories. And you felt like you were, I don't know how to say, you're on the roller coaster and you have no track. It was like, whoa. And so for me, I feel like that's what's interesting to me, is to go out, let's go do stuff. We're going to go do something that's killing the children. And I remember sitting down with a final copy 2 weeks before it came out. I sat down in the office. I kept up with it the whole time, but sat down and read it stem to stern. And then going and talking to the staff and talking about how big I thought that the book was going to be. And then to see people understand Erica Slaughter and that click in. And then we could see in the sales patterns as we went through the reprints. And then as we were going into the trade collections, more people onboarding and more people onboarding and more people onboarding. And I look at her, I think she is a massively iconic.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. I'd have to agree wholeheartedly.
Yep.
Werther's character design is brilliant. And I mean, once a generation level brilliant. But James has embedded in the heart of her, she's like, it reminds me, and this is going to be a dated reference, but in the Mad Max franchise, Road Warrior, like when Mad Max shows up at that village to save that village from the Great Humongous, and Road Warrior, it was a huge moment. It's like the man with no name. That's who Erica Slaughter is. She shows up out of nowhere. Here's this town that's in trouble. And she you don't know anything about her. She have the background's not clear. I mean, that's a classic. That goes back to Yojimbo. There's just it taps so many hugely mythic stories. And I look at that and I go, I am, you'll hear bands talk about they're in the service to the great song. And they say that in all caps, right? They're chasing the great song. And sometimes it comes to them and sometimes it doesn't, right? And that's how, thanks, Alonzo, I love it. And that's how I feel, it's like, I am in service to the great story. And I try to create an environment for it to come visit us. And I try to, honor certain story principles that I see and that I share with editorial. And it's like, hopefully the great story comes and visits us. And I think we've been very lucky to have many of those come across our plate in the past. I mean, I've been doing this for 15 years. It's happened for us many times that I'm very thankful for, but it's been an incredible sales run this past 18 months. So that's what I'm chasing. And I think at the end of the day, if you service the great story, great things happen. And I think that has been done on Once and Future, and it's been done on Something is Killing the Children. And we worked really hard on it on Berserker. Like, I can't tell you how much time Keanu put into that. Like, you would not believe me. Like, aside from the time before he worked with us, which I know he worked on it really hard. But like, I attended with him at least 6 4-hour story conferences.
Wow.
And there were a lot more than that.
Yeah, I know Matt Kent, we interviewed him last week, and he was saying that he would do like 8-hour, 10-hour sessions with him over Skype over the last couple of years. He was doing this.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, Keanu, one time, this is the thing is, I'm sure y'all think about this in this like gilded skyscraper way, but it's not like that, right? And so we were trying to get more story done, and we were just running out of time. And Keanu was like, "Let's get together on Saturday, and we will start with coffee and we'll end with bourbon."
Oh, dang! You're like,
Just back it up, guys. It's going to be a long night.
how did the wife feel about that? She's like, oh,
I had a negotiation, man, because I got kids.
that's what I'm saying, man.
I got little kids, and you know, one of the things that you see in that is he didn't accidentally become one of the biggest movie stars in the world. Like he works really hard, and he's very focused, and it's very intentional. Like, you know, we were enjoying a little while back. It's probably like 6 weeks ago. Clem Robbins, the letterer, was talking to Keanu, and Keanu finally got a chance to really drill down and start to quiz Clem about lettering, and like he wanted to know everything. Like
Interesting.
I've had to explain to him. He asked me such specifics about comic book distribution. You would be shocked about.
I can only imagine. I was telling Matt when we were interviewing Matt, I said, I wish I was on a fly on the wall when that story was pitched. And he kind of went into a little bit of detail, but that was going to be my next follow-up question is how did that become, you know, where did Keanu come into, you know, where did the path come in with Boom Studios, and how was his pitch and everything down to the granular levels? I mean, I know he's been writing this story and he's had this vision, but how was it all brought to you?
Well, we are very active in Hollywood. Like I said, I produced 2 movies. We just had a movie come out last Halloween, The Empty Man, which has been higher on Rotten Tomatoes, which is nice to see. And we're shooting Just Beyond in Atlanta right now. And so we're very well known amongst the Hollywood talent agencies. And we're very lucky because a lot of the agents are fans. And so Keanu knew that he wanted to do a comic, and his agent said, you should pitch it to Boom. And so, you know, I basically got the call, and, you know, I have a picture on my phone that no one will ever see, which is that you get a special parking space on the lot, on the movie lot, right? So I have a little placard and it has my name, Ross Richie, Boom Studios. Now, it seems ritzy. It seems like 5-star hotel that, you know, you have your own parking space, and I'm going to disabuse you of some of the excitement of that. That's to make sure that nobody parks, like, you know, parking's a free for all.
Yeah.
And so it's like if you didn't have that, you'd have to walk like 3 miles to be able to get to your office.
Jeez.
So it's not. It's a preventative move more than a deluxe edition, right? But anyway, we made arrangements, and I needed to park somewhere else that day, and so Keanu, you know, rode his motorcycle, and so there's this picture of Keanu's motorcycle in my parking space, right? You know, Ross Richie, Keanu's motorcycle, which is crazy. And I'll tell you, I'll jump ahead to the second meeting briefly, because the first meeting he came in, and, you know, you obviously don't want him to wait too long. But there's another part of you that's like, you're going into the room and you're freaking out, right? Because you're like, oh, you know, this sounded like a great idea, but now I'm about to crap my pants.
Sounds familiar, Steve?
We'll get to that later.
Yeah. So, and so he was there, and he spoke to the assistant, and when he came back in the second time, same situation. You don't want him to be waiting, but you also have to like wrap up your call and close your computer and, you know, go get your act together, and maybe get a cup of coffee. And he had listened to the assistant, and the second time he came in, he was like, hey, Zoe. So he remembered her name and was like, how's your dog? You know, how's your boyfriend? And like, I was stunned. You know, it's like, I can't remember what my wife sent me to the grocery store for, you know? And I mean, really, right? That's the thing where I'm like, what am I doing in the and here's this guy, and I know that he carries a book and he writes everything down, and
Wow.
he's really focused and pays attention. So anyway, so he came in, hi, little bit of chitter chatter, traffic's crazy, ba 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 ba, and we're all sitting on couches, and then he stood up and he was just like, I just really want to punch through dudes. I just want to, and when I say punch through dudes, like I want to put my fist through a dude and pull his spine out. Like I want to punch through a guy's face. And when I say, I'm not saying punch a guy in the face. I'm saying I want to punch, like my elbow goes through the back of his head. He was
That's awesome.
Standing up and like acting it out, And he was like, I've got this idea, and this is the kind of personality, and this is the character, and here's what he's doing. And I have these snatches of different sort of scenes I see in my head. And, and he would sit there and act it out. The first page of Berserker, he'd be like, I'm sitting and I'm hunched over and I'm on the bus bench and it's in the rain. And, we were all like, oh my God, he's pitching us the sad Keanu meme.
Yes.
That's what we all thought.
That's what we told him.
Yeah, that's what we
He
thought.
was. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. He's no dummy. He knows what he's doing. And so we were just like, whoa. I guess the appropriate response would be, whoa.
Yeah.
But, and
Whoa.
yeah, I can't even begin.
Me either.
Play.
Steve could do it. Steve could do it. Do it, Steve. You could do it. Steve could do it.
Whoa.
Oh, that's
That was good, right?
very good.
That's
And-
how I felt.
and like 4 hours later, he was like, do you want to do that? And we're like, yes. And he said, okay, we'll get Raphael Grandpa to do the cover. And we had conversations about his familiarity with comics, but I think at that moment, he was kind of going, hey, I know my stuff, right? Like I know who Raphael is, and I'm calling this shot, and I'm going to challenge you. Like if you can't get Raphael, like you better make it happen.
Yes.
Right. And so that was a very powerful moment, because it was like a spirit of partnership. It was like, we're going to work on this together, and this isn't a thing that you're just going to go take and run off and go do it and show up at the finish line and be like, look at this. It's like, we're going to get Raphael Grandpa to do this cover. And it's like, we were like, okay, let's go. So.
And it's such an amazing cover. I mean, that it's like to see the other incentives down to like, well, I'm a cover A guy through and through. So for me, I was amazed to see it just there. Like we've been hearing about it, and just the whole buildup and everything like that. And you got some heavy hitters, and Keanu, no less. I mean, writing it, you're just like, oh my God, this is going to be a movie, hands down for sure. Now, we're seeing it come to fruition, and the other things are just kind of tumbling down. It's just amazing to see. And the story itself was so hot. I look at it like that's what a comic should be. It's action packed. The panels kind of speak for themselves. The story is just enough to hook you and say, buy issue 2 and all the way through issue 12. So, I mean, when I was reading this was, I got the trifecta with Matt Kent. So I got, ENIAC, and I got Fear Case, but Berserker was the first one I read first. I said, I have to put this down. I need to read it. And I had to sit and really like marinate on it, because it was just such an amazing title. And I just thought to myself, you guys, this is going to be big. I can already tell you within these 12 issues that they have, because it's just going to be a long series. This is the one to get. And
I'll be honest, Ross, I was 50-50 on it, because like, Keanu's writing it, and it's going to be this movie actor who's coming out to try to do a comic book with us, for us, like, or not even for us. He's doing it for like, the general public, like, cause a lot of people know Berserker that aren't comic book guys. But I got to tell you, man, I really enjoyed it as a comic book guy. I was like, damn, like this is how a comic book should be. Like not much dialogue and and the story brings you in through art.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, Just to hop in really quick, the thing about it is that Matt Gagnon, who's our editor-in-chief, he was the one that cast Matt Kent to be with Keanu. And so we were rolling the dice. It's like you call up Kent, Kent and Keanu. You call up Kent, and you go, hey, nobody's going to pitch this thing better to you than Keanu Reeves, and replicating his pitch is fairly difficult. So why don't you hop on a plane and come out and listen to the pitch, and maybe it's your thing and maybe it's not. And Kent rolled the dice and trusted us. We'd done series together before, and it had been positive experience. And so I think the thing that was really very smart on Matt Gagnon's end and putting Matt Kent in with Keanu is Keanu has a very artistic, and I mean that with a capital A, artistic sensibility. And he's done a lot of art movies that you have not seen, like they're little tiny indie movies. There's a bunch of them, everybody's seen the blockbusters, but go look, like there's a staggering amount of like really arty stuff that he's done. And the, having him, match that to Kent, who can be very artistic as well.
Yep.
Yes.
Incredibly arty. Okay. Now I look at that sometimes and I worry that you put those two together and you're going to end up with something that's really ponderous and sort of what is the nature of man, and we're going to be staring into the cosmos and what the hell is this comic about, right? But I think what was amazing is Kent has a dedication to his craft. And so what Kent really did was Keanu was looking for a language and a vocabulary. Like, I know what this story is. How do comics work? How do I form it? I know how comics work, but how do comics work, right? Like, you've watched a movie, but can you go make a movie? Like, that's really hard, right? And Kent really stepped into that and gave him a structure and a framework. And then one of the things that was interesting was Kent became his enabler. Okay?
Is that a good thing or bad thing?
Well, what do you think?
It's a good thing.
Right. But,
Yes.
but see, that's why my editor-in-chief is so brilliant, is that he could see the 1 + 1 = 3 of it. But like, for instance, the reason it's oversized, that issue, is Kent. Right. And so Keanu's going, I want to do this and this and this and this and this. And Kent's figuring it all out. And he's like, we gotta go big on this thing. Like, we got to put a lot into this first issue. And I was like, it's more expensive and that's harder. And like, it's going to drive the cover price up, and that's going to make some people jump off board. And we want everybody to really be able to have a shot at this. So a lot of considerations, right? But Kent's instincts were correct. And when I say he was the enabler, the way that Kent worked with Keanu was Keanu wanted to go crazy. Okay. And your instinct, whenever you're with somebody like that, I don't care, like, think back in high school, you're with your best friend, or, college or whatever, you're at a concert, something, and your best friend's like, let's go nuts. You're like, can we just maybe, like, can we pull it back a notch? I know you need to blow off some steam, but can you pull it? Kent was like, let's go. Right. And so Kent was like, further, more.
He's like, I'll take the red pill with you, Keanu. Let's go.
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
And so the combination becomes this runaway freight train of the first issue, where, Kent
That's
has
dope.
an understanding of structure. And so he understands how to contain it, because there would have been a way that it would have been unsatisfying, right? Where it would have been like, blood!
Yeah.
You'd have been like, well, what the hell was this? Right?
Yeah.
But Kent really understood, like, okay, we need to like structure it like this and da da da. But by the way, Keanu, turn it up to Spinal Tap 11. Like, let's see if it goes to 12. Let's go great. Like, let's see if we can break this. Right?
It most certainly did. You just clearly gave the perfect synopsis of it, because it was high octane, true to the fact. I mean, he pulls out the spine, he punches through a person, brain fragments are everywhere. It's just it was just an amazing ride.
Can I ask you something, Ross? Can I ask you something? Like you know,
I haven't
you're
gotten
seeing
to Garney yet, though. But go ahead.
you're seeing it. You're seeing them going like Kent's going, Keanu, let's go to 15 decimals. Were you ever worried, bro? Like you're like, oh shit, man, I don't know where this is gonna go. Like, were you ever worried?
The entire time.
I bet, bro.
Always. Yes, every step of the way. Yes. Yeah. It's just it's wildfire, right? It's either going to really work, but part of what I think you've got to do is you got to, the great hitters don't get up to plate and think, let's not hit a home run.
Yep.
Right. You go like, we're either striking out or we're hitting a home run. And the thing is if you'd have looked at the book and been like, well, this is just absolutely god awful terrible, I would have been like, well, at least we tried, right? As opposed to like, we tried to like overthink it and, we got scared, right? But, I want to get to Garney because what Ron is such a multi-level talent. So the first thing that you get is here's a guy with 30 years of experience. Mm-hmm. Okay. So there's a confidence and a knowledge that's on every single page. It's like, I don't know how you feel about music, but it's like when you're in the hands of a legendary singer, like you can just feel it in the first 5 seconds of the song, right? Yep. You're just like, wow, this guy's Frank Sinatra, man, he's not worried about a thing. I'm just going to kick back and listen to this guy, right? Yep. Mm-hmm. And that's Garney. And you can feel his hands on the wheel. And then the thing that I think is hard to see in the book, because there's so much going on, is his emotion and acting in the body postures and the character faces. Mm-hmm. So it isn't just about like, the pyrotechnics, right? Ron does all that. Like when he jumps out of that helicopter, you feel it.
Oh, right? Yeah.
When he lands,
you feel it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's really hard to do. Like if we were at a convention, I would, and no one was around so that nobody thought I was disparaging anybody's work, I would pull 10 comics off a rack and I would show you how hard it is to do, to give things weight, to do backgrounds that are detailed, to do the page layouts, they cohesive pages. That's a little invisible thing that most people are not hip to, is the page has to have a design beyond just the panels. And Ron just does all of that, and he does it seamlessly. And you add this sort of desire to break free that Kent and Keanu have, and this, sort of tiger by the tail kind of like sensation. And you put that in the hands of somebody like Ron Garney, and it's like, God help you, man. Because it's just like, I just felt like I got punched in the face when I read that comic.
And then the nice thing is, at least when I read it, because I'm the old skeptic. I mean, I've been collecting for 30 some odd years. I was going, oh, here goes another Hollywood guy who wants to another freaking comic. But you guys actually had respect for the fans. You know what I mean? Yep. It's you didn't go, okay, here's your money, ha ha ha, here, take this. You actually gave us a book that we go, well, shit, this is good. This is really good.
Yeah. JR, I'm going to tell you a secret. I am looking for you every time I publish.
You feel special, JR?
Yeah.
I always knew I was special. My mom told me this.
Yeah. And you got a face only your mother could love.
He's blushing. You got him blushing, Ross. Look at that. Look at that cheeks.
Bring me the cranky old skeptic.
That's that. There he is.
I'm gonna kick his ass. I'm gonna fill his heart with hope. I'm gonna make him love things again. That's
JR. That's JR, man.
If you can make me love Spider-Man, you've done amazing things.
I want to make the next Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Let's go.
And
I'm waiting.
Now one
thing, the next Spider-Man could be
Erica.
I want to ask you about this.
Here's the next Batman.
Erica's next Batman or even Moon Knight.
Can we talk about Erica and something skin of children real quick?
She's bigger than Moon Knight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she is. She's gonna
pay
be.
Her respects.
She's gonna be.
I bought Moon Knight #1 off the rack. Bill Sienkiewicz is a friend of mine.
Oh my God,
Nice.
great
I
artist.
revere Bill Sienkiewicz, but Bill Sienkiewicz is holy to me. Okay,
He is. He's holy
But-
to all of us here.
but Erica Slaughter is bigger than Moon Knight.
Oh no, I believe it. Just our friend Nick loves Moon Knight, so I had
Yeah,
to throw that in there.
I understand. As I said, I bought the first issue off the rack, so I'm in that club.
So,
Ian?
oh yeah, I want to come back to Erica because that's one of our this podcast. Like, we love Something's Killing the Children.
Oh yeah.
It's so dope, man. And it came at the right time. You said, like, all these things kind of intertwined and make this a real special book. And I think even like the pandemic made it even more special because of the mask. You know, how do you think the pandemic has changed the comic book industry? Do you think it's changed it for the good or bad?
I think it's made things better. And I don't think it's made things better because people have suffered and died, because that's horrible. And I don't think it's made things better in that I know that a lot of people have been struggling financially, or they've been struggling in their careers. And I know fans have lost their jobs, and I know some shops have closed. So I don't want to be insensitive to any of that. But what I have seen in the retail community is that stores are up, and they're up big on the year before. And there's a lot of discussion happening. Like Coliseum of Comics is the biggest brick and mortar store in Florida, nationally, and they're located in Florida. And they're in the process of opening 2 new stores because that's how much sales are up. And I know that the back issue business or aftermarket is rocking. I can just see it. It's going crazy.
You see all that back there?
Yeah. Well, I'm very interested
Part
in
of
it. But yeah, and of course the aftermarket is not indicative of how the sort of publishing business is necessarily. Those are 2 different things. But I think that it is key for comic book shop health. And there are some stores that don't carry back issues, and there are some that do. And when things turn into a crisis and it's scary, it's good to see the guys that have an opportunity to, a lot of folks put their books online for the first time, got a website, they started doing eBay sales, they started, putting stuff up on Facebook shows and selling direct to fans. And they needed to do all those things. And my understanding is most everybody on a publishing basis, their sales are up. So I think tremendous amount of fear, very scary. For us, we're through the roof, so it's been gigantic for us. I think we're up some staggering number, like 20%, which is gigantic. I can't explain to you in the publishing business how big a number that is. So it's been huge for us. So I'm very thankful and grateful, and it's because we have a very resilient staff who's very strong and adaptable and flexible.
Well, one thing also I know, I was talking to my local comic shop owner here in Sacramento, and he loves you guys. He says you guys take care of them. You guys, if it's damages, you guys take care of it through Diamond and all that, but also just in general, you guys kind of stood while I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus, but while other companies kind of stepped away, you guys kind of stepped up during the pandemic.
Well,
and he appreciates that.
I'll break it down further, and I will name names, but I think everybody involved made sound decisions. So when the pandemic hit, one of the things that was happening was different states and different cities and localities were reacting differently. Mm-hmm. And so there wasn't any clarity. And one of the problems with sort of national distribution with comics, and for heaven's sakes, Canada too, I don't mean to leave them out, but it's like I could go online and I could see, I'm just going to pick some names out of a hat, right? Atlanta looks like it's going to close, but New York is open, right? Mm-hmm. And now you're going to face a situation where Atlanta's going to have Batman and New York isn't. And that's a thankless moment, right? Like everybody loses. Mm-hmm. And nobody in comics wants people to suffer at a retail basis, right? The publishers, the distributors, and the other retailers don't want any of that. Everyone wants to be together, right? So you started to see things fragment, and it was clear that there was going to be some hard decisions that were going to need to be made. And then it got worse, which was that retailers started to figure out that they're going to get shut down. Everyone's going to get shut down. And what they were worried about was product coming in that they had already committed to buy with no buyers.
Yeah.
And what is the cash flow going to look like? And what's my outlook? And it's terrifying, right? Like, are we going to be shut down 2 weeks? Are we going to be shut down 6 months? And so what retailers did at that point is they broke the glass and they pulled in case of emergency. And what they did was they went to Marvel and DC and they said, don't ship anything. Do not ship anything.
Yeah.
And Marvel and DC listened. And they were scared. And they said, this is frightening. We hear you. And so they pulled their schedule way back.
Mm-hmm.
Now, those operations are battleships. They're huge aircraft carriers. They are hard to turn. They take time, right? Yeah. Think about artist schedules, right? Are you gonna underwrite? I wouldn't be surprised. I'm gonna pull some numbers out of the air, but just to give you a sense of the size of the crisis, okay? Make a decision right now. You're spending $5 million a week for people to write and draw comics. Make a decision now. Do you spend the $5 million and you don't have any product to ship? Are you going to spend it's probably more like 10 million on a cost basis.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to start burning your cash to generate product that you can't make, that you can't sell to retail, and you don't know for how long, right?
Right.
So I don't envy any of those choices that were made by Marvel and DC. They pulled way back, and I think they did a great job. They had a lot at stake, and they were trying to back retailers up, and that's a really hard decision to make. And we're much smaller. And what I was looking at was, how do we bridge this gap? I was worried about the staff. Everybody else had let staff go. I was worried about, if you let people go in the pandemic, how are they going to get a job, right? So I was really worried about the staff. I was really worried about the writers and the artists, because bills keep coming. It's not like you don't pay the light bill, because a pandemic's happening. So if I'm writing and drawing, you slow my checks down, I'm screwed, right? So I kept those guys going. And I looked on, like, when it started to reopen, I started to go into the store, and I was looking at everything really closely. And what I was seeing was there was not product out, right? Because Marvel and DC had pulled back, and Marvel had completely not shipped product, and DC had taken like 1 month's worth of product and split it out over 2 to try to make the bills more affordable for the retailers. And nobody knew if fans were going to come back to the shops. And think about, on an implementation basis, you remember the different amount of information that we got about how communicable the virus was, and it would change.
Yep.
Right? And the CDC was just figuring it out. And so as a retailer, you're trying to visualize, well, how the hell am I going to open? Right? And do I want to open? Do I only want to do curbside? Am I going to do it through a window like a lunch counter, or like, what the hell am I going to do? Right? And so I was going to the shops as soon as they opened to try to evaluate, what is the status of retail? And what I saw was there was not product. And I thought, that's an opportunity. And we continued to keep people on staff. We continued to make comics. We're going to barrel forward. And what we did was we made everything returnable, and nobody had done that. People had done returnable programs before, but nobody had made everything returnable. And the reason we did that was we didn't know if fans were going to show up, and we weren't going to stick a bunch of products with retailers that they couldn't sell and have them hate us for the next 10 years or have a negative association with our product. And so we said, we're just going to grab hands with you and we're both going to jump off this cliff together. And there's either going to be water down there or there's not. And if there's no water down there, the retailers are screwed, distribution's screwed, and publishers are screwed, and we're all screwed, right? So I'm not going to sit here and try to throw you in front of the bus. We're partners. We're going to do this together. And we got insanely lucky because we're comic book people. So when the shops opened, comics is a community, and the fans showed up, and the fans found things to buy because they knew that the retailer needed the money.
Yep.
And they supported their local comic shops.
Yep.
And it was a huge, huge moment. And these shops, I would go into them and they're rocking, and there's no product in it that's new. So that's when what I did with Wind was I knew that we had an entirely finished graphic novel that was in our pocket that was going to come out that fall. And Tynan had been behind Punchline with Batman, which was just about to take off like a rocket when the pandemic hit.
Did you hear that, JR?
The skepticism again.
Take that.
That's all right. Jerry, you might not like the character or the story, but the economic phenomenon of its success is undeniable.
Oh no, I don't mind the character. It was kind of like when the Red Goblin came out a couple of years ago, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" And then they kill him off in like 6 issues.
Gotcha.
I was predicting they'd do the same thing with Punchline because it's just a knockoff of Harley Quinn.
Gotcha. So with Punchline coming, I kept trying to figure out when Punchline was going to come, which James, even if James could tell me, which he could not because that's confidential information for DC Comics, but even if he could tell me, the shipping schedules were getting rearranged weekly. So we just had to take a shot and go, okay, we're going to take this graphic novel that he did, we're going to split it into individual issues, and we're going to put it out into comic shops. And, my president of publishing, Philip Sablett, came to me and said, we can't do that. And I said, why? And he said, to send the email to Diamond that has the information in it, that then gets collated to go into the printed catalog, which is previews, which coincidentally I have here right now. Okay, so that takes 30 days. And then you got to print previews, and that takes 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, truck it everywhere. Everybody gets the catalog, they have it for a month, and then you got to collate the orders, and then you got to go to FOC. He's like, you don't have time. You physically don't have time. And I was like, well, what if we just skip all that? And what if we just go digital? And we just go straight to the retailers digitally and say, this is the book. We'll give it to you as a PDF. You can read it and figure out if you want to order it. And, Sablick was like, well, nobody's ever done it before. And I said, well, then that's why we should do it. And he said, well, Diamond's never going to agree to that. And, we called Diamond, and Diamond was totally up for it because Diamond knew that there wasn't product in the channel. And so they understood our instinct. And so that's another sort of look, you just get up and you take your swing and you're going for the home run. And that one was a home run. That book was our best-selling original title at that time. And then that got shattered by Seven Secrets, and that got shattered by We Only Find Them When They're Dead, and that got shattered by Berserker. And so it's just built and built and built and built. But with Wind, it was an opportunity. And I feel like life is full of challenges, and you've got to figure out, are you going to decide that you can't handle these challenges when you get out of bed in the morning, or are you going to say, this challenge presents me an opportunity? And so I felt like what we did during the pandemic was we looked at it as an opportunity to tell the retailers that we were there for them and to show it, because we are, and we believe it. We don't just say it. And I'm not saying other people just say it. I'm just saying that's who we are. And it's a spirit of partnership, and that we had an opportunity to do something innovative. And Tynan is brilliant. And, Michael Diolinis, who is the artist on that series, did the woods for us, and they're a powerful creative team. And we knew it was an opportunity to spotlight super talented creators and get them more attention. So this should be called Ross Rants.
Oh no, this has been a real treat. I mean, for me, when you were talking about Wind, that's where I kind of picked up, Ross. So I picked up with Wind, and then went into Seven Secrets, and then went into We Only Find Them When They're Dead. So each title that was coming in, even I got Origins, I got Mega Man Fully Charged, and I mean, I have a huge catalog of Boom books, and I mean, I was amazed by each title. I'm like, oh my god, when is the next title going to come out? So for me, it's been a real treat. So this has been a great breakdown. I mean, I've been waiting for this like weeks and weeks. I'm like, oh my god, I can't wait.
I appreciate it. JR was probably cocked his head skeptically and said,
"No, actually, it's funny because I knew about your guys'. Like we started Comic-Con together. That's where we all met.
Mm-hmm.
And one of our buddies named Roy, he'd always drag me over to the Boom booth, and I'd go, "Why are you dragging me to the Power Ranger booth again?" Because for a long time, that was your big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And up until probably about last year, probably earlier than that, I always kind of liked your books. Not trying to be mean, but I was just like, Power Rangers is not Voltron, and I don't care about Steve Universe.
Yep.
But I mean, now you're pulling. I mean, even like Berserker is amazing, but you also brought in Proctor Valley Road with Grant Morrison, which to me that's huge because Grant Morrison I love all those English writers, and you really don't see him do much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And he's reined in a little bit because I love Grant, but he's done some stuff like The Filth where it's just that was aptly titled. I don't ever need to read that book again.
Well,
I warn people, don't read that book.
I'm very proud of the fact, if Grant was here, I would tease him with this. I'm very proud of the fact that I can actually understand him when he talks. So he has a very thick Scottish accent. So
that's Karen Gillian too. I know that.
Karen's nothing. That's easy. You got to put some work into Grant. Now, come on.
Well, that's one of my goals is eventually to get Grant Morrison on here.
So Ross, I have a quick question for you.
You're gonna have to test the spell, JR. Sorry.
I know. I've heard him and Warren Ellis.
You've got into this partnership with Netflix, right?
Well, yes, it's a first look television deal.
Yeah, and I'm digging it. When it was announced that you guys did that, I'm like, oh my god, they have so many properties that they can bring onto this.
Yes.
I mean, thinking outside the box, getting into this relationship like quickly, I was like, oh my god, this is fantastic.
Can I piggyback up Alonzo too? Like when I first went to Comic-Con, and I mean, this was back 2000. I mean, let's say like 2014 when me and JR met, and Roy was saying, you guys need to go to Boom Studios. I didn't know you guys were a comic book, publishing company. I thought you guys were like a movie studio.
Yeah.
So that's where I need to piggyback on him. Like, was this all in the making, like the Boom Studio trademark?
Oh, you're talking about like the core name of the company.
Yeah.
Yes. So, I'm a little bit more like JR, which is I'm an old school comic book fan. And one of the things back in the original Independence is that they would not necessarily name their company Comics. And so you see it. I went to work at a company called Malibu Comics, but it was originally called Malibu Graphics.
Oh my god, I remember that.
Which is
I have the Bruce Lee title.
The original publisher of Men in Black, yeah. And for example, Mirage Studios was the publisher of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And there's a lot of, like Oni Press is like that, where they're not called Oni Comics, they're called Oni Press. And I think they were influenced by that same era. And so when I sat down to think about the company name, and I actually just did an interview with Sketched about this, where what you're thinking and you're going like, okay, which sounds cooler, Boom Studios, where the stew sort of has the assonance of the boom, right? Boom Studios sounds cooler than Boom Comics. You know, I just couldn't find a way to not say it out loud where I'm like, boom, comics. You know, it just automatically gave me an East Coast accent. And I'm from Texas, and I don't want an East Coast accent. No offense to the East Coasters.
And it sounds like that Kaboom comics that they had back in the day, too.
Yeah, well, we still have Kaboom.
Yep.
Yeah, we still put out Kaboom. Kaboom is the material that we put out for kids, all ages content. We did a series called Met Cadet U that you'll probably be hearing more about. The next time we talk, you'll be like, you were keeping secrets from me. And I'll be like, yes, I was.
So I was going to ask, with that whole Netflix deal, besides Berserker, because that's been announced.
Yep.
Do you have anything? Like, I've also heard rumors about Proctor Valley Road.
Well, there's no rumors. I can tell you what's clear in black and white. And so Proctor Valley Road results from a partnership that we have with a company called UCP. And what those letters stand for is Universal Content Productions. And it was formerly Universal Cable Productions, which was the television studio that made the cable TV shows for the USA Network as well as the Sci-Fi Channel. And when everybody started to go streaming and cable was sort of yesterday, they changed it from cable productions to content productions. So that's a division of Universal Television, NBC Universal. And so we partnered with them because we know the folks over at Universal UCP and have done a lot of business with them, and they've developed different Boom series as TV shows, none of which have come to fruition yet. But that through that, we've gotten along really well. And they said, you know, we've got some stuff that we want to originate in the comic book space. And the DNA here is Grant Morrison did Happy with them.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
I love that book.
So Grant created the comic book, he co-wrote the script, and he was an executive producer of the show. And so Universal wanted to work with Grant again. And so it was like, let's get all those folks together. Let's get Grant, who has comic book bona fides. Let's get Boom to publish the comic. Boom is great at publishing and also is a producer of television content. We need a producer to produce the show. So they'll produce the show. Grant will write the script, and Grant will write the comic, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And so that's all very well documented online from the public relations department from UCP. So I'm not breaking any secrets here. So if you were to say, oh, wow, it looks like they're developing a TV show, you would be, yes, that is exactly what they were saying in the article. So.
We can't wait.
That's going to be good.
That's great. I mean, that book, it got me hooked from the moment I read it. I was like, this is fantastic. It's well written, and the art goes along with it. So I'm really looking forward to the second issue, and then what's going to happen with those teenage girls, and how are they going to explain these missing boys? I mean, it's going to be great.
Yeah, Naomi's a real revelation, and Grant really went to bat for her, and was a big champion of her work. And I think she did such a spectacular job. It was really impressive. Great talent.
Yep.
Is there any books that you guys are publishing that are already known out there that you would say, hey, you should probably check out, like any that we may not know yet? Not necessarily, I don't want to care about the TV stuff I want to read.
Well, so the thing that I always try to make sure the path that everybody's gone through is, if you like if you like Something is Killing Children, check out Once and Future. If you like Once and Future, check out Seven Secrets.
Mm-hmm.
Then We Only Find Them When They're Dead is so mind-blowingly huge and gigantic, and I mean space gods, and
I will say I'm behind a couple issues on that.
Aesthetically pleasing to the eye. My God,
yes. The art is phenomenal.
So gorgeous. It's amazing, but it's a big, it's a big idea, and I think, like, Once in Future and Something is Killing the Children, Once in Future and Seven Secrets have a sweetness to them, and there's a familial quality that they have that with the sort of big adventure backdrop. And so I think they pair together nicely. And, you know, Erica Slaughter's Erica Slaughter. I mean, I don't think anybody doesn't like it. You know, Once in Future is a massive hit for us.
Oh yeah,
It's a huge book.
It's an amazing read.
Yeah, it's incredible. So those are all big highlights that I would hit and say, check them out. And now I would add Berserker to the list. And then past that, you know, we have a lot of other series that are wide-ranging and very different. And, you know, that's one of the things that I enjoy is I love all sorts of different kinds of stories. And so I wanted a company that would do all sorts of different kinds of things so that I could hear a story that I was excited about and say yes and go green like that. So, you know, that is the backdrop. Past that, a lot of it is, you know, Matt Kent did a series for us called Folklords, which I would recommend people check out. It's a sort of reverse Harry Potter. You know, Harry Potter is in our world and he's kind of pulled into a fantasy world. This is a teenager in a fantasy story, elves and dragons and everything. And he has these dreams that he is in our world.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of a mind bender. Jeremy Hahn did a great horror series for us called The Red Mother. That's 12 issues.
Yes,
I
I love that. Is it only 12 issues?
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah, so that's going to get to a big conclusion. So I think you'll find it satisfying. Don't worry, we'll be. It's not the last you've seen of Jeremy Hahn at Boom Studios, and then I'm trying to think about, you know, for things. Everything I'm naming, y'all have read. So I gotta find something that you haven't.
I've even heard your Power Rangers is really good.
Oh, Shattered Grid is an excellent read. Oh my God.
I mean, mind you, it's for my friend that's a big Power Ranger fan. So
I actually, you know, I think that people like. I'd give you an example of Brian from Simple Man's Comics. So Brian, he is not a Power Rangers fan, and he picked up the Power Rangers comic and started reading it just as a comic and loves it as a superhero comic.
nice.
And like, he's not into the show.
Yeah.
So now I don't know that everybody's going to have that reaction, but it's certainly what you aim for. Another book I'd recommend is The Last Witch. It's this fantasy story that we did. And, you know, if you kind of cock your head sideways, it's a little bit of a Disney movie. It's done a little bit more serious than something like Brave. Okay. Or maybe a little bit more intense than Moana. Okay. But it's that female lead like Brave. The idea is there's a witch that lives in the woods. She's been gone for a while, and she has a witch's tower, and basically the local boy challenges the lead character to, you know, who can get to the witch's tower first. And her mother had died, and her father has told her, whatever you do, don't ever go into the woods because a witch lives there. And so she goes into the woods, and she goes and finds the witch's tower, which is supposed to be abandoned. And guess what?
It's not.
It's obviously not.
It's not abandoned. And there's a little bit of labyrinth to it too, which is she has a little brother on the journey with her, and she has to rescue her little brother. So I think it's really, really strong, and I think that you'll enjoy it. So
Awesome.
check it
Very
out.
nice.
Now, there is one thing that we like to close the show out with, and it's a rapid fire questions. And I know
Let's do
E
it.
got some ready and raring to go.
Are you ready for this, Ross? Are you ready? Okay, let's go, man.
Ian, the name of the company's not Whimper, Ian. Come on, man.
It's Boom.
Let's go.
Boom.
Here comes the boom.
Let's go.
All right. First question. First Comic-Con ever.
Oh, well, 1982, San Antonio, Texas. Marv Wolfman was the convention guest.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wow. I love Mark Wolfman.
If I do too, he's a terrific person. Now, if you're using the word Comic-Con as to represent San Diego Comic-Con, that would be July 1992.
Wow, you're an OG. Dang.
Wow, that's awesome.
Wow. That's awesome. Before it was a big thing it is now, huh? The big old monster.
Oh yeah, I remember when Neil Gaiman's line was 7 people long, and
Wow.
most people didn't have the patience to stand in it. You just wait for it to go down a little bit, and then you could go get his autograph.
You want to know the thing about it, Ross? Is that's how we all met in the line in Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, in the lines. Yep.
I love it.
So wait, really quickly though. Speaking of Comic-Con, what about MiniCon November of 2021? Are you guys gonna go?
Yeah.
I'm unfamiliar with MiniCon. Tell me about MiniCon.
San Diego's supposed to have because they're not going to have a normal con this year. They're
gotcha.
talking about having a dialed back one in November.
In
Little
November.
big one.
We'll see how the vaccine rollout goes. You know, the thing that we've got to worry about is staff safety first.
Definitely.
All right, number 2, second favorite comic book in your collection.
Second favorite.
Yeah, because second favorite.
We all know FF is
It's not easy.
first.
Well, you know, this is where you're saying single comic book or favorite series?
Either one.
That makes it harder that it's either one. Let's see.
Inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah. I would say probably up there is Uncanny X-Men 121. It's the first Alpha Flight, because that was my first X-Men comic, and that's made an indelible mark in my memory. Really blew my doors off.
All right. What's your favorite plate to eat?
Oh,
Favorite food.
Mexican food all day long.
Hell yeah!
That's what I'm talking about. Let's go. You like that Texas style Mexican food, the Texican. Yeah, I already know, man. Yeah.
Tex-Mex.
Tex-Mex. The Tex-Mex.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And what's your kryptonite?
And I'm going to ask you what you mean by kryptonite, and then you're going to say, answer it the way that you want to. So I'm going to skip that part. No.
What's your weakness?
And like in comic book collecting or
anything in your life.
In life.
Yeah.
What can you not say no to?
Ice cream.
Yes.
Particular flavor?
Dessert is my weakness. It's my kryptonite. Sometimes
Yeah.
I order dessert first at a restaurant.
I'm a fat kid, and I've never even done that, Alonzo.
Don't lie.
No, man.
No, I've never done that.
Dude,
You better
I
stop.
work
My
my
mom would've
meals
kicked my
sometimes
ass when I
around
tried doing that.
dessert.
All right. Superman or Batman?
Oh, that's interesting. You know, I think ordinarily I would say Batman. I'm not much of a Superman guy, but I've been thinking about Superman as a concept a lot recently, and I've grown to appreciate Superman. So I will say Superman.
Okay. This might be a hard one, this next one. Did you watch the Justice League Snyder Cut?
No.
Okay.
I have little kids, and I don't have 4 hours. So
All right.
Don't waste your time.
Oh, come on.
No. It's 3-1 here. It's 3-1.
It's
A
good.
pile of
take it in
poop is a
chunks.
pile of poop. I
If
don't
you
care.
binge anything or stream anything, just take it in chunks.
Chunks. Just like you would watch one of the Disney Plus Marvel movies. Favorite band?
U2.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Classic.
Right.
I like it.
That was the first concert I ever worked. Was U2 Pop Mart tour in
Wow.
Oakland.
That was a great show, man. That was a great tour.
Back in 97, I think. 96, 97.
Yeah. Nicely done. Sure.
All right. And last question. Top 5 favorite songs of all time.
Oh, I'm not going to be able to do that. Like, my favorite song is the live version of Bad from U2. And then I'll just answer this all U2 songs. So
Let's go.
Then my second favorite is All I Want Is You.
Mm-hmm.
And then I am the insane person that prefers the back part of Joshua Tree.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Streets of No Name is great, and I think With or Without You and all that is great, but I'll fast forward and go to I think it's track 5 or 6, and when you get to like Red Hill Mining Town and running to stand still and like that exit and all that stuff. That's the stuff I love. Like that. I think
that's a true fan. Because I know, like, I'm that way with Zeppelin too. It's like I'll skip like Stairway to Heaven and
When the Levee Breaks.
Yeah, and I'll go to like some weird album. You know what I mean? I won't go to like Zeppelin 1 through 4. I'll grab, I forget the album's names, but I'll go to some of the other ones, House of the Holy, and other albums, and grab that.
Well, if you want to play this experiment at home, my understanding of how the tracks progressed was, I've forgotten who it was, but somebody's wife. It wasn't one of the band members. It was like the photographer's wife, or it was like the producer's wife, or somebody's that was not a core band member's wife. They basically recorded all those tracks, and then they gave that to this woman to put in the order.
Oh, wow.
And what the band realized after she did it was that she very cunningly got an audio progression. And so like when Bono talks about it, he talks about how it's super clear that is absolutely what the order should have been. And so sit down sometime and listen to it stem to stern, like with no interruptions. And it's pretty incredible that it plays together like that. Like when you get to Mothers of the Disappeared, it's just, it's absolutely.
I'll do that as I'm editing this.
Yeah, I think you'll really enjoy it. And then if we're gonna play that game, JR, the other one, after you get done with Joshua Tree, go listen to Wide Awake in America. It's just a little EP that's 4 tracks.
Okay.
But that's a very satisfying little chunk of time, little 20 minutes.
Oh yeah, I'm always down for more music. You know, I mean, I sit in front of a computer 10 hours a day listening to music. So
I love it. Well, after this, I'll shut up. But I think their most unappreciated album is Pop, since you were at the Pop Mart tour.
Yeah, I like Pop. Yep.
Me too.
It's a good one too.
Everybody overlooks it. It's amazing.
Yeah, they need not overlook it. They need to pick that sucker up and play it in their car driving down PCH.
And you know,
mind blowing.
What's crazy is that's the first song I ever learned on guitar was a U2 song. It's not coming to my head, but I know it's in D. You know, like it's something off D, and I was like, dude, man, like been listening to him since too with you, man. But I'm gonna turn it up to Steve, man, for for his little MC commentary to ask to send us out, man.
All right,
well, Ross, we want to thank you so much for joining the Team Nerd Herd podcast, and this has been a real treat. All of us are really big fans, and again, congratulations on everything and moving forward. And in the future, we are ready to see more. So, with that being said, do you want to take us out, Team Nerd Herd style?
If you want to do it right, collect what you like.
Bam.
Yeah, bam. Thank you.